Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. Today is Tuesday, September 9th. My name is Evan. This is my good friend Alex and my other buddy Will. We are so happy to be here with you to talk about all things helpful news, commentary, and answers to your crypto questions. You guys held down the fort. Thank you for all you did yesterday. I'm sad I missed the interview because I caught the last 10 minutes walking through the airport and it sounded fantastic.
It was a good one.
You guys always it shows when I'm gone.
What is that? No, couldn't be.
I mean, like, if you have a bunch of data pointing towards one thing, we probably need more data, but, you know. I'm tempted to say, since you just said that Alex is your good friend and I'm your other buddy.
Listen.
And then there's the other guy.
One of the most
I'm pretty sure the show's better without you.
One
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry because you are my good friend also. It was just, verbal vomit and don't ever let me call you buddy again.
Comfort him. Gaslight you, Will.
No, I would never. If you've got a crypto question, if you're feeling buddied by a good friend, or there's something else you want to talk with us about this morning, then let us hear it. I know Alex has to get going in just a minute. And while we have a couple of different headlines, probably the most pressing thing on everybody's mind is what's that hack that happened yesterday? I know you touched it in the evening for Market Watch, but for folks who weren't here with you then, do we want to maybe start there, or do you guys feel like there's a more pressing place to start? And especially you, Alex, since I know you got to go in a little bit, is there anything that you wanted to get to today to share with us?
The only thing that's more pressing than that is this hilarious standoff that's happening over here. Oh my God, turn around.
For the people in podcast land, I think Alex is about to show us something related to dogs. Yes, indeed. Is that Pumpkin? And what do we got?
The tiny rat has finished her breakfast, but there's a single tiny piece of beef on the plate. And Meatball gave up, but Arlo is like, no, that beef is mine. Pumpkin seems to have missed it. So now
they took my balls, but they won't take my beef.
Yeah, you know how it goes. Anyway.
Okay. Very pressing. That was the original order of the morning.
I think covering the old Will's muted. What a nerd.
It's like, what?
He's big muted too. Look at him. We need to figure out where the
He's big muted and big gesturing. You look like you're doing Can Anybody Find Me Somebody to Love? A pantomime by Freddie Mercury on a muted microphone. But before Will gets back, you were going to say a little bit of explanation about the NPM attack?
Just a brief overview of what happened. The TLDR, the nutshell, is that you're good. We're good. No need to panic. But it's a little bit interesting. So this is what's being referred to as the biggest NPM attack, supply chain NPM attack in history. That's the Node package manager, which is like the default package manager for like the whole JavaScript runtime environment, the whole JavaScript, everything. I don't know what happened, Will, but you are muted. He's still going.
Will, do me a favor and turn your mute off on TikTok, and let's try it there. I'll route you through that way.
I have.
As you were, Alex. Actually. For the people in podcast land, pardon our interruption. If you want to see the fun looks on Will's face, you got to come to YouTube and check out the screen share. As you were. I'll troubleshoot backstage so we don't have to disrupt the listening experience for our friends.
Yeah, no worries. So anyway, basically, long story short of what happened is that one of the developers that maintains some of the like really popular JavaScript tools, he got phished. He received an email that effectively told him that he needed to update something or other, or his account was going to be locked. He needed to update some security settings that were out of date, and he did it. He's not proud of it, obviously, and the people got access to his account, and then they injected a lot of malicious code into a number of common popular packages that lots of different projects use. And so when all of those projects update settings, they pull now the malware from the corrupted packages into their system. So the infected software was downloaded about 2 billion times in the span of the attack window. And one of the things that it was able to do, if you were a crypto user, was interact with the transaction piece of that whole equation and basically swap in a new address with the one that you were trying to send stuff to. And the Ledger CTO jumped on that shit and got a really good commercial, because one of the things that is technically true, even if it was a little bit exaggerated to represent, is that the only way to really make sure you're good here is to be quadruple checking the addresses that you're sending stuff to, right up until the confirmation screen, because the clip attack would swap it in right before that. And oftentimes those addresses are only 1 or 2 characters off. Very similar. So if you're just doing a quick scan, first 6, last 6 to confirm, or even just last 6 of the intended address, then you might miss it. And a lot of software wallets will auto abbreviate full wallet addresses to only show you first and last 6 or first and last 5 or something like that before you hit confirm. And lots of people just kind of speed run through those things, especially if they're for inconsequential amounts of money, quick little transactions, this, that, whatever. So the good news is that it was over very quickly. It was reported rather aggressively. A security firm called Aikido found it almost immediately, and it was flagged, and then the injected packages were removed and replaced with the correct ones, and patches were issued, whatever. It was good. It only lasted a few hours, and sum total of like less than $100 actually ended up being stolen from anybody. So good news all around. Overall, definitely a scary moment. Very widespread attack, and just points to one single point of vulnerability. Evan, this is one of the things you said about it last night was, even if we're talking about decentralized systems, things that require code updates from central points of authority or one developer who can, as this dude did, make a quick, simple mistake, click a bad link in an email, and there you go. All of a sudden, malware is all over the place. Dealing with so one thing that's important to say is that Twitter and social media are full of misinformation about this attack. So no blockchains were hacked.
Right.
There's no blockchain downtime. No protocols specifically necessarily got hacked. Although one could say, if you were trying to be a little bit exaggerative or misrepresentative, you could say that they were hacked because they downloaded a piece of malware in a package update. I find that to be slightly misleading, because they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, and it was someone else's fault upstream. But, such is the nature of social media. It's a lot sexier to just say it's all crashing and going to zero, we're all doomed, than it is to give this whole ramble I just gave.
Yeah, except then everybody sees those headlines and go, oh my God, and then they go to the crypto markets and go, oh wait, things are green today.
Yeah.
Is everything fine?
Yeah, everyone wanted to know, is this affecting the markets? And the answer was not really. No,
not at all. The market was mostly green.
No, but it really does underscore the importance of, first of all, how centralized a lot of the stuff we do here is, and how reliant the infrastructure in some places can be on like one single thing. A lot of the developers who contribute to the different, we say, composable pieces of technology, meaning like, your ingredient isn't everybody's recipe. If everybody uses this same line of code, this same address grabbing, address matching function, whatever, then if it gets compromised, everybody's going to be in trouble for a minute. But the cool thing about it is the developer community is so plugged in. They're so willing to share. A lot of it is open source, so it's easy to see, easy to verify when this kind of thing goes wrong. But this is a conversation that happens a lot on blockchain. It's happening a lot in our show. I remember Dennis Porter was talking about it, that it's happening in the Bitcoin Core development community right now, that the developers want to push a particular change through. But the validators and miners want to wait. They want to talk about it. They don't want change to happen too quickly. And they don't have as much unilateral power or technological ability to like actually implement the code that runs the protocol. So I thought it was really a good chance to slow down and zoom in. Do you have other final thoughts about it, Alex, or do you want to give a general final thought before you ride your dog and pony into the sunset for today? And let Will and I just take over and talk crap about you behind your back,
as the good Lord intended.
Mhm.
No, I think that, like you said, it's a good reminder, like you said, just to slow down. Like I think, and I definitely fall into this category. I'm sure that both of you can relate to this as well, and I'm sure that someone listening can probably say, okay, I've caught myself doing that too. It's a good reminder to, like you said, slow down a little bit.
Maybe touch some grass.
Well, let's not get too hasty here, okay?
But I got things to do.
But at least just be cautious and careful, even if you think that what you're doing is just something super routine. I mean, Evan, not to call you out, I'm only saying it because you already told the story publicly. But the one time that Evan clicked a bad link, that was exactly what it was. He was doing something he's done 25 million times, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm good with this." Boom, 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 boom. Click, 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 click. Oh shit! And that's how fast it can happen. I mean, I see a story on Twitter from somebody, and it's hard to know whether or not these things are just like looking for attention, sympathy, or like donations or whatever. But
sure,
relatively prominent voices inside of the industry talk all the time about how they, oh damn, I just got drained for however many thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever dollars. Here's what happened. Some of them are pretty compelling. Some of them are just whining. But it's a good reminder just that it is extremely possible to make a very simple mistake doing something that you have done 25 million times. And there was one question that someone asked just about this. How can someone spin up a nearly identical address so quickly? How are they able to do that? It's really just all in computational power. It depends what kind of resources they have available to them. You can, it really doesn't take that much to create an address. And I don't know all of the technicals. That would be a good question for like a Perplexity research or something like that to, ask it specifically what all goes into a clip. You would ask for a clipping attacks wallet generation software. Like, how are they able to do that so quickly?
There's a really good video by our friend Adriano on Technically Web3, his channel on TikTok, where he has a good flow chart from the developers who got hacked of like, here's what this function does, and here's how the hack interrupted it. If you just search Technically Web3 on TikTok, shout out Adriano. It's like a 2-minute video, and I thought it was really helpful.
Yeah, it was a good one for sure. But no, that's it. Slow down, take your time. It's okay. It's not going anywhere. Waiting an extra second or two is not going to be the difference between generational wealth. So it's worth it to triple check those addresses. And honestly, the one thing that this has prompted me to do is to not just immediately trust first and last 6 on an address. To expand out the address.
Adding them to your address book, I'm lazy about that because I rely on first and last 6 a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and the one
honestly,
thing,
same here.
The one thing that I do as well, which is generally a good practice, I recopy fresh the receive address every time I send a transaction.
Yeah. Oh, I do it every single time too. I've never not done
pull
that.
anything from a clipboard. It's a fresh copy
Always.
Every single time.
Yep.
Yeah, you're just looking to get hosed if you do that.
Yeah.
Or if you don't do that.
Anyway, the only other thing I was going to say is saw some ridiculously outlandish price predictions about speculative altcoin runs, and I just wanted to issue a polite, friendly, Alex-themed reminder that if you guys are holding an altcoin that just erroneously explodes, please take some profits and pay yourself a little bit, at least a little bit. Just do it for me, just so that I sleep at night. Okay.
And guys, Alex really needs help with sleep.
I really need help with sleep. It's because people aren't taking profits. Okay, it keeps me up all night. I'm tossing and turning.
You're not taking profits, guys, because Alex shows up like, ugh.
Oh, I just had the greatest idea for a silly skit, but it has to be seasonal around Christmas time, where like
I know
Alex
exactly
has
where
this,
you're going
like,
with this
naughty list of people who don't sell. That's being in like Evan and our elves, and we're like, sir, I'm sorry, and then you turn around in a chair and you're in this like all black Santa costume, and you're like, what is it now? We're like, another person has been added to the naughty no sell list. And you go, God damn it. And like throw a coffee mug, like a Rise Up coffee mug or something against the wall. It shatters. And you go, what have I told you, these fools? And you grab the list and then you stalk out into the snow. We have to be in Maine. We need an all black Santa costume. Evan and I can get really shitty Amazon elf costumes, and we just need the lighting. I have the videographer. We can actually do this.
First of all,
I'm thinking we might also need 20 dogs instead of like 8 tiny reindeer.
That are all
just chihuahuas.
They're all geriatric chihuahuas.
The only issue I have with all that is Will implying that he doesn't already have an elf costume, because there's no fucking way.
I actually
This is a gross misrepresentation of the facts.
This
See
is
yourself out.
partly why I'm so excited, because I'd be able to add a new costume to my repertoire.
Oh,
Which you did just remind me, I need to buy a new costume for the Renaissance Fair. So thank you so much. I need to write that on my to-do list.
You're very welcome.
So
Anyway, I will.
there's a chance.
I will leave you fine gentlemen as I go off to oversee and supervise the delivery of a couch that needs to make it around a very tricky stairwell. So this is attempt number 2 with a more advanced crew, I'm told.
attempt number 2. Yikes!
Attempt number 2.
No.
So anyway,
Good luck, sir.
Sorry to rug you guys, but take your profits.
Hey man, thank you so much. As he rides his dog and pony into the sunset, pray for his couch. It is our friend, our buddy, Mr. Alex Popovich. We'll see you soon, man.
I really want to make that like bad Santa video.
Dude.
I really want to
Totally.
make that video.
100%. We got to. I saw the glee on your face, and I received the idea as if by osmosis, and I knew what you were going to say, and I was like, yes.
I'm just
yes.
like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Put it on the list.
This Christmas, God, I guess it would have to be like next Christmas or something. Oh man, our schedules are too crazy between now and the end of the year.
Be the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. I'd just like to say too, and this is a lesson for everybody, and like put it on your to-do list, is find people, granted you guys have us too, but find some other folks in your life where you can just like delegate tasks. Find other people in your life. Anyway, move on and do sentence. But like to delegate tasks, because like this whole hack thing happened, and I was in a group thread, and I was just watching this, and I was just looking at this, and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell any of these people are talking about. None of this makes any sense to me. I don't have the acumen for this, and like I have Alex and I have Evan, and both of you guys I know when I really want to get into the weeds of like on-chain stuff. I have you guys here to answer that for me. And I can really focus on like the TA, the charts, the investing, the macroeconomics and stuff, which is like what really gets me going, right? And like it's been on one side, since we started the show, my knowledge of like where everything are at with a whole host of decentralized applications, what's leading DeFi, technical differences between platform cryptocurrencies and stuff. My knowledge has gone down, but my knowledge of where I really wanted to be has been able to dramatically increase because I have you, Evan, and Alex, where I can be like, so what's happening here? Like, oh, okay, awesome. Like, what are the coolest, where can I get the highest yield for these stable coins? You're like, oh, here's number 1, number 2, number 3, and you just like know it off the cuff. And I'm like, cool, awesome. I don't have to focus on that as much as the things I really want to focus on. And it's a huge time saver, and it really allows you to just like specialize and focus on the things you care about most. So delegation is really key. And the only way you can do that is if you like network and find people. A great place to do that, this is unintentionally a commercial now, is the Circle community in Rise Up. So head to rumshq.com, the Rise Up Morning Show, headquartered.com, and hop into the Circle community. It's free, and you can build your network and start delegating some tasks. Man, I'm good.
That was killer, dude. That was a
Man, I'm
slick
good.
commercial transition. And I agree, specialization. And everybody, we all need somebody to lean on. I learn from every single person in and around us all the time. Everybody's got something they specialize in. I saw, our friend Jessica is here. She is always sharing really good articles from Forbes because she got this premium subscription from some NFT she bought. She brings it back to the community. When people have tax questions, a lot of the time she'll answer them. We have several friends who are actual tax professionals who have helped people prepare or file or work as accountants. We have friends who are interested in technical analysis, yada, yada. You get the picture. Life is better with friends. Our friends in the comments have a lot of questions. We got the question from Cosmic. He was talking to Joe about how folks touch grass. And I was trying to steer Alex there, but I think he took us back to good God, man, take some profits. So I'd like to know from the audience their creative ways to touch grass, because currently I am literally feet away, pun intended, from putting my bare feet on some grass in my dad's backyard. I'm visiting my family in Michigan. I want to make silly skits with my friends. That's a good way to touch grass. And I want to hear what your suggestions are. Touch grass in crypto means, what do you do to get your minds off the charts? Because the other question I'm seeing is this altcoin season? Is this the meme coin rally? Is this whatever? I wanted to kind of get your take on this. And then I had a few other questions in the comments, including a question about what happens when you don't receive coins you thought you sent in the wallet where you intended to receive them. So we got to talk about that. But I also have some headlines too. So I don't know where you want to go, Will. That's where my headlines take it, is about fights in the crypto community, indicators from our friends. And I would like to hear you contextualize it first, because I haven't seen any shows this week. I feel like I haven't seen you since last week. And I think that's the most common question in the chat is this altcoin season? What are my altcoins doing? Should I be buying right now? Can we put these people's fears at ease?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe. But yeah, so I'm going to be, if you guys follow me on my TikTok and stuff like that, I post daily update videos, and this week's a crazy week for me. There aren't going to be a ton of videos, but I'll get the essentials out. And one of the key essentials is that we have been seeing, while Bitcoin's been grinding sideways and a little to the up, and Ethereum's been grinding sideways, and actually right now a little bit to the up. That's in large part because we've been watching the Bitcoin dominance chart, and I'll pull it up for everybody to see in just a second. But let me first explain before I show you why this is weird. And we were talking about it last night on Market Watch with Danielle, and which was also a fantastic episode. And I'm so glad that she's coming back to TikTok, because she's so good for the space. She's on Instagram, Crypto Crush Show, and thrilled to have her back on TikTok at some point in October. And it's Bitcoin's been grinding sideways and looks like it's bearish. Ethereum's been grinding sideways and looks like it's bearish from a technical standpoint, and also from a liquidity heat map. So like, which direction could the market drive, Bitcoin or Ethereum? It can make money in either direction, which is why we've been grinding sideways. The market's been fighting and trying to decide what direction it wants to go in. And so while everything has looked a little bit more bearish, there have been a slew of altcoins that are looking bullish, which is really weird, because if Bitcoin looks like it's about to be red, if Ethereum looks like it's about to be red, typically the entire market is about to be way more red. And that has been confusing, because on the Bitcoin dominance chart, we're seeing weakness. Now, let me share my screen.
Go for it.
And if you see weakness on the Bitcoin dominance screen, you're expecting Bitcoin to be a little green or sideways, and then altcoins are exploding across the board. Okay. So if I zoom out here, this is the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame. If this chart is new to you by chance, this is not showing price. This is showing the total percent of the entire market cap, the entire bucket of money that's in crypto that is within Bitcoin only. So if this chart is going down, which it has been, it means that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. If it's going up, it means the opposite, Bitcoin's outperforming altcoins. And we had a slew of short signals up here that told us that, hey, we're expecting a pretty nice fall. And then we had this massive channel that Bitcoin dominance is in. We've had a pretty confident break right here. So again, zooming into where we are currently, we had a fake bullish breakout of this wedge pattern here. And that was a little bit of a troubling sign at first. We're like, oh no, maybe it looks like Bitcoin dominance is going to go upwards. That's most likely going to happen because Bitcoin's going to sell and altcoins will sell harder. So Bitcoin's percentage of that bucket of money becomes bigger. But this was a false bullish breakout. When you have a false bullish breakout of a pattern, typically breaks the other way like 98, 95% of the time, right? Like this pattern's toast, which means we should be expecting a big fall in Bitcoin dominance, which means we should be looking at altcoins to do nicely. That's what the Bitcoin dominance chart tells us. When we zoom out to the weekly time frame, we had a short signal even just about a week and a half ago as well. And the next major area of support is about a 2.5% swing further to the downside, which represents a large amount of money swinging to altcoins, okay? So we've been watching this in the Bitcoin dominance chart going, things still look strong for altcoins, even though things haven't been looking amazing, for Bitcoin, not necessarily bad either, but just not amazing. So we could see a further swing here. Now, if you're watching the Bitcoin dominance chart and we start to come down to this 200-week exponential moving average, which is sitting at 55.9%, that is a very, very, very likely area to see Bitcoin dominance bounce back to the upside. Okay. When we touch this line, you're probably at the end, potentially there's a chance, at least for a few weeks, of this move to the downside being over and exhausted, and it's time for Bitcoin to take a little bit more market share, right? It's not a guarantee, but that's likely to potentially happen. So you could see this continue to be a big swing and rally for altcoins for the next couple of weeks, potentially. But if we come down to this line this week or next week, that's potentially a sign that you should be taking some heavy profits out of altcoins, because the risk of this bouncing upwards, altcoin selling, is very, very, very high. So that's what we're looking at for that. And then I'll also add a bonus, because Ethereum is the main altcoin, right?
Little bonus. I love it.
Little bonus. So if we pull up Ethereum on the daily time frame, we can see that right here, Ethereum's just been grinding sideways after it had a bearish break of this ascending wedge. However, while ascending wedges tend to always break to the downside, and this did break to the downside, prices remained really, really sticky here, because I don't have it open on my chart, but you essentially have a big payday here, and then also a big payday right here on the Ethereum liquidity heat map. So the market's stuck between which direction it really wants to go in. You can liquidate shorts and longs of equal size in either direction, which is why Ethereum's price is just going sideways. But right now, we are technically above the 12 and 21-day exponential moving average. If that happens, you'll see Ethereum pop upwards and claim the liquidity that sits right here at roughly like $4,700, $4,800 is where it is on the Ethereum liquidity heat map. That combined with all of the other altcoins, like Pengu is already starting a massive breakout. Syrup started a big breakout a few days ago. XRP saved itself on its chart as well from having a big bearish break into potentially a big bullish break. So you have all these other altcoins. If Ethereum could go a little bit to the green, Bitcoin goes a little bit to the green, you'll see all these other altcoins, not all of them, but quite a few of them, have big moves to the upside. And that would be your Bitcoin dominance slamming downwards and then finding potentially key support on the 200-week exponential moving average. And that's a sign to really de-risk out of the market, in my opinion, and then wait to see how altcoin momentum does. Because from a macro standpoint, September 17th is when we get rate cuts. And it looks like we are getting rate cuts. And that's a buy the rumors, sell the news event.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of those things are looking like they're going to be lining up together. So be aware of that. And as Alex would say, really take some heavy, like Alex says, take profits no matter what. And I'm saying, if you get that scenario, take heavy profits, because the odds of you getting a buying opportunity again after that look to be very, very, very high. So Evan, I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Will.
So to the question, is this altcoin season? I mean, we've been in a major altcoin run for a couple months now, and we've been talking about it. And this might be the end of this big swing in this altcoin rally. And it could be the end for a little bit, right? It depends on a lot of macro factors. We'll see, because once rate cuts happen, buy the rumor, sell the news, we have unemployment on the rise. That's good for rate cuts, but also it's bad for the economy. If people aren't making money, they don't have money to invest, and they have to sell assets, and then markets go down as people just try to put food on the table. So if unemployment continues getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and guys, mind you, unemployment is not bad. We're at 4.3% unemployment. That's actually super healthy for the U.S. economy. It's just trending. It's just starting to trend in a bad direction. And so if unemployment gets worse, then you could see markets really fall for quite some time. However, we don't know what unemployment is going to do. We also don't know if the tariffs are going to be held up by the Supreme Court as illegal, in which case unemployment is going to be totally fine. It's going to immediately reverse. Also, inflation will go down and the economy can just go, cool, let's print a shit ton of money because inflation just got cooler And we want to make sure that the labor market's solid, and also $70 billion goes back from the public sector to the private sector, and their profit margins are fine, so they can hire people again. Like, there are a lot of what ifs between now, right now being, September 9th, and the end of October, right? Middle to end of October. And then the other what if is Ethereum staking being turned on for the ETFs, and maybe Solana staking ETFs, right? There are a lot of what ifs. And when you're in a scenario where there are so many what ifs that will really shake up the market, and this is where I'll get off my soapbox.
You're good.
It's not bad to just, if you're in profits, de-risk and then wait to see how the market shakes out after all these what ifs, and then place your bets again.
Yeah, I thank you, first of all, for making the complex clear. A reminder to our friends in podcast land, hello, hope your candles are green, that if you want to see the candles, literally, come on over, check out the YouTube playlist, The Rise Up Morning Show. Will has got a beautiful screen share where he shows you the indicators, and you can use tradingview.com if you want to set up your own indicators like Will, and we can talk about how to do that more. But I really want to emphasize for people, often, do you find this, Will? And also friends listening, do you find, especially people who are in their first cycle, but many people seem to think of altcoin season as this long, meaning multi-week, multi-month, sustained. They picture it as like a long upward climb in their minds. But what it seems to be, what you discuss and describe now, is this season of time when Bitcoin dominance is more volatile, and some altcoins have these breakouts. They pop, or they have shorter periods of sustained growth that might be a week, maybe 2 weeks. Maybe if you're hyperliquid, you look back and you see a long trend, or like, I don't know, what did we have a year ago? We had SWI, and we had some hype around the election cycle for XRP and some of the ISO tokens. But it is not this like very clear, defined, we have skied down from Bitcoin mountain and we're climbing up Ethereum mountain. It's going to take us months, and then you'll know when it's done because it makes a nice, beautiful crest. No, it's like little waves popping up all over the surface of a lake is what it is. And altcoin season is a time of frothier activity, which is why it is helpful to take really aggressive profits. I hear some people say things like, this or that token went to $1.50 before in the past, so I'm going to wait until it hits $1.50 again, and maybe goes a little higher, and then I'm going to take my profits. Or they say, is this altcoin season? I'm seeing these tokens heat up, and they wait for that as a sign of like when to buy in. Mm-hmm. And that results in buying a lot of tops, meaning you purchase the asset when it's relatively expensive. It goes back down. And if you bought it at the top, like the cycle top, because no one really knows when the trend is going to reverse with all these like macro moments happening around us, it could be the end of the party. Stranger things have happened. And then you end up being that person who's saying, no, it's going to go back up as the price is going down. It's going to go back up. It's going to go back up. And now you've missed your chance to have any profit, and you got to hold on to it for another 4 years. You don't want to be that person, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And to your point, the idea of what is an altcoin season, it's this long period of time where things go up for a long set of time. And that's not just hopium. That's actually based in data. So Evan, I'll actually show my screen again on the Bitcoin dominance chart and just show you where that data comes from and why I think it's totally bupkis now. So let's see, Bitcoin dominance. And sorry, folks in podcast land, imagine through the ether what these candles look like, or hop on over to YouTube. So this is the Bitcoin dominance chart on a very, very long-term time frame. These are all weekly candles. These green lines represent the Bitcoin halving. Okay. The red magenta vertical lines represent the times when Bitcoin hit its high in each cycle. And these teal straight lines represent, and actually let me clear up this guy as well.
It's hard for me to tell the difference between green and teal on this visual, but I'm just gonna take your word for it.
Okay, well, here it is. But anyway, these teal blue lines represent the peaks for altcoins before the markets ended and it was a huge, massive bear market, right? So where we are currently is this green line, that's the halving. And this line all the way on the right is based on how the market has acted before, when the top for altcoins should be, based on how long it has typically taken for altcoins to reach a top after Bitcoin halving, which is supposed to be the end of September or at some point in October, based off of historical data, which does actually line up with Cosmic's theory of what's going to happen this cycle. Is we'll get a top in around October or so, I think, or he said end of September in his theory. But for altcoin season, this right here was a 44-week swing away from Bitcoin into altcoins. That was a 44-week long altcoin season. And then before, again, we saw altcoin season started here. We didn't hit a top until this teal line. That was 48 weeks. It was 48 weeks of an altcoin season. But something you should note is from the first halving to altcoin season, it took 35 weeks. And from the second halving that I have here on the chart to when altcoin season started, that also took 35 weeks. And now, we had the Bitcoin halving and the ETFs really changed everything twice the amount of time, 64 weeks, right? The ETFs have dramatically changed things and broken the model that we've been seeing in altcoin season. In fact, you saw a lot more chop in the past, whereas once the ETFs turned live, it's just been up and to the right in this channel for Bitcoin dominance. And so we are technically just a few weeks away from what should be the top of an altcoin run based on historical data. However, we have seen this altcoin season happen way later because of the Bitcoin ETFs. And now we're about to have staking turned on for the Ethereum ETF, potentially Solana, potentially XRP, potentially Doge, potentially, a couple other cryptos as well. So how else is this going to affect this chart? I don't know. What I do feel like is very likely is that these long periods, these 40-week plus periods of altcoin swings are dead because this Bitcoin ETF has dramatically changed things already out the gate. And so to think that we're going to have the exact same pattern happen before when the pattern has already been broken isn't something that you should expect.
Yeah.
And you should always expect Bitcoin to be the dominant ETF for the most part. Recently, it's been Ethereum, but you should expect that for Bitcoin overall moving forward. So do not be surprised to see these altcoin swings on this chart not remain as long, not happen for an extended period of time, or at the very least understand the pattern has been broken. We don't know how things are going to go beforehand, so I should be in a little bit more of a risk mitigation standpoint. And maybe I want to take some heavier profits than maybe I was going to normally and see how things shape out. Make sure I'm protecting my money, because the best way to make money is to make sure you don't lose money.
Yeah.
Right? That's the number one way that you make sure that your net worth is just going up. It's not how big are your wins, it's how few are your losses.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing there.
Well, can you actually, what my point is, I agree with you completely. I don't disagree with you at all. But the distinction I'm trying to like, the lesson I want to impart to people is that if they're just looking at that chart, that makes it seem like even in the rainy season, there are days of sunshine, right?
Yeah.
And the thing I see a lot of people lose money on is waiting to get in until their favorite altcoin heats up. It's near a local top. They buy it. They hold on to it thinking that it's just going to be like a roller coaster ride to the very top, when in reality, it is marked by volatility. If something has a week or a day where it goes up big, it usually corrects. And I see a lot of people who are getting in at that time expecting an altcoin season to capitulate. They bought ETH when it was $4,800 because they thought, man, this was a great time. And then it goes down to $4,200 and they say, oh no, and they drop it like it's hot. And then ETH goes back up again, maybe higher, and they start to freak out again. That's all I'm saying is stay nimble, temper your expectations, and be prepared for whatever might happen so that you can capitalize on the volatility in this time, whatever this altcoin season continues to look like. The reason I can't share my screen for some reason right now today. It was giving me a little pop-up. Can you perhaps just quickly pull up the Ethereum chart, the ETH chart, and maybe do like an all-time? What I want to see is, that last period, if you weren't looking at the chart, Will showed us Bitcoin dominance, and it took a marked turn downwards in like July 2020 through the end of 2021, which indicates that altcoins are running. But in that time, Bitcoin set a new all-time high right at, it appeared to be the very bottom of that chart. The high from last cycle was in that altcoin season sliding. And for Ethereum, let me see if I can't tell.
Yeah, what are you looking for? I can direct the attention.
Looking for, so, there's that reversal on the Bitcoin dominance roughly correlates with ETH. This is between 2020 and 2021, where ETH does start to go up. It looks like you're climbing a roller coaster. But Bitcoin's chart around that time also looks like that, even as Bitcoin dominance was going down. And what I want to impress upon people is that there was this sustained sort of period of growth, but look at the volatility in there. Those are big candles up and down and up and down and up and down. There's lots of opportunity for people to capitulate. And if you weren't taking profits aggressively when it moved, then there's a chance that you might have missed a lot of this. Or if you were waiting to get in until it got so-called, strong again, back to its like previous all-time high, then you were missing, I don't know, upside. There's just, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of volatility when these altcoin seasons are happening. These things range, a lot. And
that's a 60% fall.
Well, and it's, if you go from here to here, it appears to be up only, but yeah, that's steep, man. So
still, here's a 35% correction in Ethereum, some massive swings upwards, but then again, an immediate fall of 40%,
hugely
60%. The volatility in these markets are crazy.
Right. And if you had sold at that first big peak before it fell that 40%, and you had stayed out because you just weren't sure, you still would have done better than probably 90% of all the traders who sat through this top and then waited to sell until it got back down here. So like taking profits is just never a bad thing. It's a win, like Will said.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's
and
all.
There's always an opportunity. And then the other thing I would say too, and it's something that Doug says all the time, is, hey, if you are looking at a coin that you really wanted to buy and there's a top, hey, guess what? There's probably about 39 other cryptos that are in the exact same technical analysis setup that made you super bullish on that coin. You just got to go find them. There's always another play. There's so many other cryptos out there to be able to trade, and they're all in different positions: bullish, bearish, neutral. And you can go find another coin to play, and you don't have to buy that coin. If you really want to later, wait until it's super red, buy in, get your bag, set it to the side.
Vonda asked, is there a decent volatility index in crypto? And I would defer to you because I've seen volatility indexes, but I honestly don't rely on them or know what they're tracking.
I don't look at that myself, and that would be interesting, but like, it's crypto, so a volatility index would just be like, I don't know, some dude screaming with a megaphone. It's really volatile the next day. It's also really volatile today because it's crypto. So that to me doesn't mean a whole lot. I feel like I wouldn't get a lot of signal out of that noise. What I do get signal out of is the VIX. The VIX, which is, I feel like Vonda will already be familiar with this because she's interested in looking at volatility indexes. That is a measurement of how volatile the stock market is going to be, because the stock market isn't very volatile, at least in compared to what we're used to, right? But, if the stock market's going to be volatile, that's okay, I got to pay attention. Is this good volatility or bad volatility? Because that's going to affect crypto most likely. And the expectations of the VIX right now are that markets are going to be pretty stable across the board. There's a record amount of shorts, or it's not a record, but it's the largest amount of shorts against the VIX since for 12 years, in the past 12 years, if I remember correctly, which means the markets are betting that there's not going to be a lot of volatility and there's going to be a lot of stability in markets for at least another month or so. We'll see. But that stat came out like 2 weeks ago, so that's an old data point. So maybe just another 2 more weeks of market stability. Okay. But the VIX is really important.
And that's the CBOE VIX.
I think so. I'm actually not sure who. Let's see. Let me verify.
I was going to do a Google search for it, but I figured you'd know. But it's spelled like it sounds. VIX. Yeah. Okay. There it is. Chicago Board Option Exchanges. CBOE volatility index. Yeah. So Google it. Don't put it on your chest when you have a cold. Look it up to get better information.
Put it on your chest.
Did your mom ever put Vicks on your chest?
No, she didn't.
Mom's
But
at
I was in the elevator not too long ago, and this woman was just like complaining about like this like pain she had, and this woman was just like reached into her purse and was like, Vicks. It's just like she's like, you need to put this on your chest, and she was like, oh, thank God, Vicks. And I was like, classic. The fix for all.
The fix is Vicks. I had a couple of things that I wanted to share that were just like headlines that happened over the weekend, some on and off chain stuff featuring our friends. Can I read a couple of them and you tell me which ones you think are most interesting, friends, and we'll go from there? Feel good about it?
Yeah, I feel good about that.
Then let me tell you.
Rapid fire crypto news.
Here's our guy, Alex. So the NPM hack was not the only thing that happened in the last couple of days that kept us guessing. There is a lot happening that points back to how centralized or decentralized a lot of these protocols we know and love are. Recently, Layer 1 Hyperliquid and decentralized exchange Hype announced their plans to launch a proprietary stablecoin called USDH. This has turned into one of the most contentious governance battles of recent years in crypto. At stake is control of a dollar-pegged token that could replace $5.5 billion of USDC, which represents about 95% of that platform, Hyperliquid's stablecoin supply, could generate millions of dollars in revenue from yields on US treasuries. And there's a vote on September 14th to decide who will issue this token. This is something we're going to see more of in the not too distant future. As more people bring stablecoins to market, there are going to be certain companies who have the authority and the legal clarity to issue the actual like rails of crypto, or not crypto, but whatever they're doing on the back end to make this money move and work. Major contenders for this one include names you recognize like Paxos, Frax, and an interesting coalition of Agora and MoonPay and some others. The debates are all about, Stripe's potential control of this and how centralized or decentralized it will be. Elsewhere, Ethereum sparked a lively debate on X when the foundation sold $43 million of tokens because people were concerned about the health of their blockchain. And shout out to our friend Dunleavy, Tom Dunleavy, senior analyst at Masari. He noted that ETH and Solana are thriving in terms of TVL, in terms of active addresses, in terms of transaction volume, in terms of application revenue, stablecoin activity. He wrote a really great thread about it over on Twitter that I would share if I had the screen share, but for now you got to take my word for it or look him up at Dunleavy, EAVY 89, where he addresses this. I think
Also,
it's a helpful...
former senior analyst at Masari, currently the head of venture at
Varus
Varus Capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dunleavy, I'm sorry, brother. It's hard to keep up with. That's right. Thank you for the correction, Will. And then in Solana, they got a new consensus option called Alpenglow. This is a technical thing, but what you should know is it is helpful to how it's conducive to decentralization. For the people whose computers actually do the work of processing transactions on a blockchain to have options for the software they run. In a really robust decentralized network, there are many options for the software you would choose to use. Just like there's many options Will and Alex and I might choose to use for streaming our show. We could use StreamYard or River.com or OBS. And if one of them raises their prices a bunch or the CEO becomes a Nazi or something like that, we can switch over to another one, right? Yeah! Unfortunately, for a lot of our friends in the world of blockchain, they don't have that many options. We talked about this earlier. These core developers who maintain these protocols, a lot of the time it's like 12 people who have the technical know-how. And when the governance vote happens, it's really just like a show vote. But mostly the team and their major shareholders and liquidity providers are saying, this is what we're going to do. And they tell those developers what to do, or the developers tell them, actually, this is what we want to do. And the thousands, or in some cases, millions of users are like, okay, or they just don't know. So Alpenglow, the upgrade, officially cleared a vote, over 98% approval from network stakers, usually people who stake their tokens to a network or do the work of validating, get to participate in votes like this. And this will help them implement just a new consensus mechanism. It'll increase transaction speed, make the network more responsive, and give validators more options for the kind of like computer program they want to run to make Solana work. Bitcoin is having some contentious debates about this right now. ETH is always having debates about this. And it's something important to understand if you want to get how crypto beyond money is really about like networks of people, like your town or your country, where democratic decisions can be made about things that affect all of us. Okay, quick bits. Did you see, Will, that Gemini is doing an IPO and they're looking for a $2.2 billion valuation? My question to you, Will, is do you think that's over or under for Gemini, the cryptocurrency exchange? I don't happen to have their figures for revenue on hand, but they've, filed an S1 doing 16.7 million shares, pricing in between $17 and $19 each. They're looking to raise around 300 million at a 2.2 billion valuation. Over, under?
What's the valuation of Coinbase right now?
That is a really good question. Coinbase's valuation, guesses in the audience? Yes, no, maybe so. I want to see if somebody knows it before I can whip it up. $86 billion. And
that seems generally fair then. So, but I threw this in the chat GPT because I don't know the answer, but our future AI overlord does. So Gemini's proposed valuation places it at a premium level. So a multiple of about 16x compared to the full year revenue in 2024 it had, which is $142.2 million, with a high, with a first half revenue in 2025 of $68.6 million. So in 2025, they're actually on pace to not make as much revenue as they did last year. Not a great sign.
Yeah, they've had some rough reports.
Yeah, so Coinbase trades closer to 6 to 10x their revenue, and Gemini is looking for a valuation that is 16x. So it definitely looks like they are overvaluing themselves.
So would you be a buyer at that price?
No, Jesus. No, I wouldn't.
Do you think
not this?
Do you think there might be a little of the Circle effect? Like Circle launched, and I thought it was a little
yeah, there definitely will.
And then it blew right up because
Well,
it's crypto, I think.
No, I don't think so. I think there's going to be some excitement of like, ooh, another crypto company, and we already had a couple crypto IPOs do really well, so I want to get in here early. But at the same time, like it's a really like you're just betting on pure speculation again, as opposed like you're getting into the stock market as opposed to crypto. And crypto speculation can make you pump and pump and pump and pump and pump. In the stock market, that only goes so far. And you're playing in a field with investors who really are crunching the numbers. Like, how much revenue? What is your valuation? No, you're crazy. Get the fuck out of my office. Like, what? Like, you're not worth my time. You're a joke. Get out of here. Now, granted, this is a retail-led market right now over institutional investors, so maybe you'll have a little bit more of that hype play into the stock market. We'll see. That's a big culture shift that is taking place right now. But I would be super wary of getting into Gemini at a $2.2 billion valuation when that's a 16x of their revenues compared to Coinbase, which is at a 6 to 10x. Most everybody who's a smart or seasoned investor in the stock market is going to look at that and go, that is ridiculously overvalued. So I would be super cautious about that. And also, when companies go public, remember there is maybe you don't know, so maybe saying remember isn't the right word, but people who work in the company have been given private equity. When that private equity goes public, they typically can't sell any of their stocks for 180 days, which is why after IPOs, 180 days afterwards, you typically see the price fall because insiders finally get an opportunity to sell. Yeah. The same thing happens with in crypto with airdrops. It's just that those airdrops happen immediately, which is why those sells, boom, happen immediately out the gate. Then you find stability. And then if it's a good project, it goes upwards again. This is different in the stock market. It's 180 days. Then you have that airdrop effect. So typically, waiting and seeing how things shake out ends up giving you the opportunity again.
The other thing is they reported a loss of almost 300 million on a total revenue of about 70 in the 6 months that ended just in June, compared with a net loss of 40 million on a revenue of about 70 million last year. So I'm not a stock market guy, but just thinking about companies and how I value them, I would be like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and then you just look at it like Coinbase is making more and more and more money, so it makes sense for them to do well. If Gemini is making less money, why? Why? You know, I'm in the stock market world. Yeah, I'm in the stock market world. I need some more real solid business fundamentals here in order to like think that you're worth $2.2 billion or higher.
I do see in crypto, you know, we talked about like the ETFs have changed everything, but something I remember and something I think is largely the same is that when bullish sentiment exists around crypto companies or crypto adjacent companies, they want to do their announcements, they want to go public, they want to launch their protocols, they want to capture like the volatility, the momentum that the market, the fervor in the market. So I think even in a less than ideal like numbers scenario, they're like, you know what, this is just the right time to do this, because if we don't do this now, who knows what the next 6 months, who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months, what's it going to be like.
And then another thing too is as we compare like, Circle's IPO did amazing. Understand that you had a lot of institutional investors go, cool, I'm going to buy Circle right out the gate, even if it's not good timing. Long term, I think this is going to be great because this gets me exposure to stable coins, which at the time we didn't even have like the Genius Act out. We didn't have like the other bill out as well. And everyone knew it was coming. They go, stable coins are going to be the future of this economic system and the future of the dollar. I want exposure to that ecosystem. Right now, the only way I can get exposure to that indirectly is by buying Ethereum through the ETF product or by buying Ethereum spot. So now I have the opportunity to buy Circle. And so that's one of the reasons why Circle's IPO was able to do so well, is because this is my exposure to a brand new industry that seems to be the future. I'm going to do that. Whereas Gemini is not the future. It's not like it's a first mover in the exchange space. It's not even the biggest one. It's not even like a top 5 one, I don't think. You know, and so it's just like another player in the space that's actually shrinking. And it's not a very attractive proposition.
Hubla Khan asked, I'd like to know what software and AI you're using to do that proper valuing. Google, and verifying it. Triangulation. If Reuters and Yahoo and MSNBC and I don't know who you'd add, Will, you know, if a CoinGecko or a CBOE type website has the metrics and they all seem to concur, then I think it's probably unlikely that these dozens of agencies and thousands of employees are paid actors trying to deceive me and consistently very good at it.
Yeah, but I will say, like, I pay for, you know, ChatGPT, and I pay for like one of the higher up tiers, and even then, you know, it'll spit something back out to me, and I go, wait, no, you missed this, and they go, oh, you're right, I did miss that. I'm like, yeah, come on. Pretty weak AI overlord, you know.
Will, don't insult him. We love you guys.
You know, so you know, your ChatGPTs and your Claws and all the other, you know, your Google AI too. It'll miss things from time to time, and yeah.
I have 2 more fun bit headlines. I do want to come back to this question of sending from an exchange to a wallet or not being able to do that, especially for a couple of friends in the comments who've mentioned that happening with XRP. We're talking about volatility. We're talking about altcoin season. One of the reasons I asked you about that is because I have noticed also volatility and signs of life in meme coins. Did you and Doug talk about this last night by chance?
Not specifically in meme coins. I mean, we pulled up Pengu.
Okay.
And we pulled up Fartcoin per usual. And so the reason we pulled up Fartcoin is because Doug has shown that it's actually a really good indicator of what's about to happen in the market. Now, that might be breaking a little bit. It hasn't been the best lately, but Fartcoin's looking like it might be hitting some stability or maybe a little bit down, but it's closer to kind of swinging to the upside.
Yeah.
Pengu's had a bullish breakout. I didn't look at Doge. I didn't look at Bonk. I didn't look at SHIB. I didn't look at Pepe. So I'm not sure about the rest.
Here's some numbers for you. Is there is broadly either some strength showing or a little bit of breaking out happening across the meme coin sector that some are calling a rally, despite this, you know, lingering skepticism around Yeezy token and Ronaldo token and even Trump token, etc. Bonk led the charge with about 7% on the day yesterday or a day ago. Doge climbed more than 7%. It got up to 23 and about a quarter. And then even some newer meme tokens, SPX 6900, Pumps token, they performed better than most altcoins on the market. And
Pengu was up 12% on the day as well, which felt great for my bags.
I do believe it. The whole meme index, particularly the CoinDesk meme index, because they have one of those too, was up about 2.2%. Whereas the broad Coinbase 20, which measures the top 20 by market cap cryptos, was only up like 1.2%. So not huge, not gospel, but just an interesting thing to watch in this conversation with where is capital and where is attention flowing. And the last bit that I wanted to get to is really especially for you, Will. Have you heard of Charizard Capital?
Excuse me?
I have got something that
Excuse me?
You're gonna like this, Will.
It's the perfect time to buy.
So this past weekend, there's a company called Cards. They do what Courtyard does, except they do it on Solana. And for our friends who don't know, Courtyard and Card, there are companies that allow you to digitize and securely store for you token versions of your favorite cardboard assets, like Pokemon cards, like baseball cards, and they're expanding into a broader range of collectibles, comics, etc. They both have this sort of digital experience, as Will shows you his beautiful treasure trove, this digital experience where you can like rip a pack, claim a card, buy or sell from someone to ease the friction of the experience that collectors love. Not everybody can go to a trade show, not everybody can go meet their favorite collector in person, not everybody wants to pay the eBay fee or trust somebody to ship them a card, and yada, yada, yada. So tokens give a verifiability and a velocity to this phenomenon. They give liquidity to it. So Cards launched, the Card token launched. People are speculating more than ever about Pokemon cards on chain, and one enterprising venture company called Charizard Capital has maybe taken this new meta the furthest by pooling their funds to buy Charizard cards, which historically are a pretty good asset.
Yep.
Tied to a token called Zard. They are vaulting these cards, minting the token, buying back the token, and they're encouraging other people to buy it too, so that they can just like accumulate more value to the Zard token, to Charizard cards, and then they can use that value to go like do other things. If you have a Charizard card on chain, you can take out a loan on it. If you can prove that it's valuable, you can take out a loan on it, go buy ETH with it. You can open a liquidity position. You can do all these cool things. You can fractionalize ownership. Maybe you can't afford to buy a first edition Charizard card, or you don't want to spend all the money. And so you would, however, like to buy 1/100th of it. Now, my friend, you can. So do you want to invest, Will? Because
yeah, I just like what they're doing. So, I'll just take like $100, throw it into Zard probably, and be like, hey guys, keep this up. Like I'm not gonna put any serious money towards it because I'd rather just buy the card.
Right.
Yeah, personally. But like I like that. Also, for those of you who don't know, Pokemon cards have outperformed the stock market over the past 10 years. So, it's actually not a bad investment idea.
No, it's really not. And if you want to learn more about this, I could not find their website. I heard about it on an episode of Unchained. Unsurprisingly, Unchained Crypto, their podcast with the Card CEO led me down a Twitter rabbit hole, and I've just got the screen share up. All I did was search Charizard Capital, and you can find links to the token. You can find links to other coverage of it, and it's just a fun little rabbit hole to go down. Apparently, there's a whole Twitter community of Charizard Capital members, so you can check it out for yourself. You can buy the token, and their portfolio is still really small. It's, according to this tweeter, isn't even 10K yet. So you're early, and
it's the perfect time to buy.
That's what I think. Will, can we address this question from the audience about what happens when you send crypto and don't receive it as you expect to?
Yeah. I mean,
you
my
tweeted
immediate
about
guess
this recently, right? Or no, you posted on TikTok about it. When it works, it's fine, but even when you do it right, that waiting period, your heart is like,
oh my God, you're just like, yeah. So one thing is, this is common for just about everybody, is if you're sending Bitcoin or you're sending Ethereum mainnet, they're slower, right? They're not like your
Mhm.
Solana, it's not your Hedera, it's not your Algorand, it's not your XRP, it's not your stablecoin, it's not blah, 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 right? You know, and so Bitcoin takes a while to send in comparison, and so too does Ethereum. So sometimes you just gotta wait a little bit. Particularly with like Bitcoin, like I'll do it and then I'll go out and I'll like grab lunch or whatever, and I'll come back and it might not still be ready, and then I'll like, go and do something else and come back and be like, oh, okay, now it's sent. You know, it can take a little while. The other thing too is if you send crypto into a wallet and it's like particularly a new token that you're sending, let's just say it's an ERC20, which means it's on Ethereum, and you're sending it to your MetaMask wallet or your Coinbase wallet or whatever. You can send it there and the sent worked and it's on chain, but you're not seeing it in your wallet. That could be because you just haven't added the token as a token that shows up in your wallet. There are a bunch of tutorials on YouTube that you can go check out on how to add the token to your wallet in order to make sure that you can see it again. So it's there and it's worked. But if you end up sending it to the wrong token address, then you're kind of hosed. Not by kind, I mean you're hosed. That's it. You made a mistake and that money's gone.
Yeah, and the tip about looking it up cannot be overstated. You will see on the Blockchain Explorer, usually in your wallet interface, there's a link to this transaction or view this transaction, where it will open a page on a website called the Blockchain Explorer that allows you to look at a human readable form of the data that these computers that run the blockchain protocol are actually processing. It'll tell you who you sent it to, where you sent it from, when the transaction processed, if it failed, any intermediary steps that happen, swaps, switches. And you can get a lot more assurance. Sometimes your wallet glitches out and it won't show you the asset there for whatever reason, but the asset may have been successfully assigned to your private key, and that will be the proof you need. If it's assigned to your private key, you can get it. The other thing is, sometimes with XRP specifically, this also happens with Solana, a deposit is required by the protocol to activate a new wallet address. This is mostly an anti-spam measure. If anybody could create any wallet for literally free, then spammers might take advantage of it by creating a million trillion wallets and trying to farm an airdrop or trying to scam a metric or whatever. There are lots of reasons why you'd want to have a lot of wallets to do something nefarious. So they implement like a deposit fee. It used to be for the XRP network, the XRPL, that this was 10 XRP tokens. And this is enforced largely at a wallet level. It's like that exploit we talked about earlier, where there are lots of pieces of code stacked on top of each other to make the whole thing work. The protocol has since been updated. People voted to change this deposit requirement to 1 XRP token. But I can't tell you, Will, if you've ever seen this, I got a lot of comments at one point in time where people would say, I sent my XRP to this ad and they stole from me. I sent XRP to Trust Wallet and they stole my tokens. They didn't steal your tokens. This is like a non-refundable deposit you pay to activate the address. And in most cases, most wallets and exchanges, if they don't pay it for you, they have updated their protocol from 10 to 1. So that's not a cause for concern. But if you send tokens to the wrong network, you might be out of luck, Chuck. We've talked about that a lot on past episodes. We've gone deep into detail, and I've certainly made a couple of videos about it. I think we've all touched on this phenomenon before. But if that's something you're concerned about and you want to know, is there hope in my specific case? I would recommend you jump into the Rise Up community. Will plugged it earlier because it's true. The only thing missing there is you. It's a much better place than the live chat to have a back and forth conversation that doesn't disappear over time, to share a screenshot, to find your new best friend, to get help with this kind of crypto issue. So if that's you, you're not seeing tokens you expect to see, then head on over to RUMS, RUMSHQ, and get the first link at that website to jump into the community and let us know you came from the show and you want to know about how to find your tokens after you sent them to a wallet by mistake on the wrong network, or you're just not sure. We'll help you out. Will, Scooby-Doo keeps asking, where are you? He keeps asking, have you heard about XVM? And I've never heard of it. Have you heard of it?
I've seen it in comment sections before, and Alex has made comments on it. And it's a token that I then heard the explanation and then immediately erased from my memory. So
there are so many of those, right?
There's so many of those. It's hard to keep it track. But let me try to see if I can give Scooby-Doo a better answer than that.
4 hours ago, David Crypto Scam Hunter posted XVM rugged. slowly. I'm not surprised. I also see be careful and don't buy XVM. Oh. Yeah, this is an avoided all
XVM's
costs
a
token.
scam. Yeah.
Because it was launched by Crypto Sage, a known scammer who has rugged
Yeah, he's done like 3 rugs now.
Yeah.
The fact that he's not in jail is wild.
All right, listen, I am so sorry if you bought this token, but do not. Crypto Sage is not your teacher. I don't wish him any ill will, but I think he wishes you some ill will, even if he would shake your hand in public if he met you. He has launched a lot of tokens that are going nowhere. So if
Dude,
you
I was on a
haven't-
live with him one time, and I had no
Oh.
idea who he was because it was I was flipping through TikTok, and I went past Josh Jake's channel, and I forget what they were talking about. It was something interesting. So just like left a comment, and then Josh was like, "Hey, do you want to come on stage for a little?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And there was like 2 other guys there as well, and one was this Crypto Sage dude, and I was like, "What?" And so we were talking, and I was just like, "This guy's saying a whole lot of nothing." That was the thing, that he was saying a whole lot of nothing, because Josh was talking to him about some project of his that ended up being a rug pull before this one. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I really put in the work." And he was answering questions that weren't really answers. And so I just like asked him a few things about something, and then I kind of bounced. And then about 2 weeks later, you and Alex mentioned, yeah, Crypto Sage has like rug pulled a bunch of people before. And I was just like, what? I was like, wait, what? Because I don't pay attention at all to influencers in this space. I don't listen or watch anybody. So I had no clue who does what, and I was like, "Oh, damn, huh? Well, good to know."
It's not necessarily that this token is. Alex, God bless him, in the chat said, "I wish him ill will." So thank you, Gwumps for Sage.
It's just stupid.
But this is a game that is more like gambling than investing, because you are not basing your conviction on any kind of fundamental. It is the ultimate trust me bro token. And you could look at, there is a token called Trust. There's I don't know, Hood, the token, not the stock. Any creator meme token, if it catches traction, usually has a very fast run up to a number that is wild, whether that's 1 million or 100 million, and then it just comes down. And then there are a lot of bag holders. Usually a core component of these tokens is a community of people who hype each other up by saying things like, just bought more, selling my groceries to, whatever, I'm getting paid Friday, can't wait to buy more, diamond hands, hold the dip, it's coming back, the dev's doing something. And slowly over time, they come to realize like, oh, it's done. So good question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, very good question.
You can pass on it. Not a big fan.
Not ideal.
Okay, well, we've got about 10 minutes before we ride our dogs and ponies off into the sunset. So I'm glad to defer to you to see if there's anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here today. And if there's anything you want to talk about, then let us know. You got a question, a suggestion, a tip for how to keep your coffee warm in the Rise Up Morning Show mug, then let us know. I see some questions coming in, but I'm glad to give it to us while you do.
No, the only things that are top of mind for me, and I have to get going pretty soon because today is my last day where I have any semblance of free time before I have work conference, 3 customer dinners, and then I'm trying to go to ETH Boston on Friday.
Oh, that's
right.
I'm
trying to. And it's just like work is just, hey, do you want 0 life? And I'm like, no. And it's like, well, now you have a negative life. I'm like, oh, why? I just want to make silly videos on the internet and help people. But then I also have Solana Boston on Saturday too that I'm trying to get to as well. So the only things that are top of mind for me is I'm going to take a look into Zard today. I'm also meaning to put out a video that provides an overview on Pengu, as I've been doing a lot of research on it and how it's like you're going to see this trend of meme coins. And it's largely going to be led by Pengu. Although Bonk was, I think, kind of like the first one that was like, hey, let's actually start. We have this IP and this brand and this like fun memeability. But like, what if that memeability could actually also have some utility? And I think you're going to see a large shift over the next few years of these meme coins not just being shit coins and having some sort of utility. But I think you're only going to have a few. So I'm going to talk about, I need to do a video on how Pengu is changing that because they're at the forefront of it. And what you can currently do with it today, which isn't a lot to be fair, but they have plans for a lot. So I think you're going to see meme coins and utilities kind of pair, and you're going to see a big shift there. So I'm going to talk about that as well. I need to do a video on it. The other thing too is in the Circle community, I know there have been a lot of requests for me to do videos, and I was trying to get to it this weekend, didn't have time. Tried to get to it yesterday, didn't have time. Today, I'm going to try to make sure I get your TA request videos out. So if you're watching and you're waiting, you're like, Will, I need my video. I'm going to try to get some up today because after today, my time is screwed. So that's all. I just want to let everybody know I'm on it.
He's on it. Don't fret, don't sweat. Well, then, Will, I'm glad to wrap up a couple of questions if you need to get out of here. I was going to answer a question about what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? And certainly, you're welcome to play along with me. But if the time would serve you better, working for the man, then you want to
the time would serve me better so I can work for the man, but also work for everybody and use some time today to get some videos out.
That sounds good. Then you go make a video. I'm going to wrap up a couple of last minute questions about this or that token, and we'll catch up with you in the chat. Does that sound fair?
Okay. Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. He is our good friend, Mr. Will Watson. Bye for now, my friend. I saw several good questions in the chat that we can answer before we ride our dogs and ponies into the sunset, including thoughts on HBAR, thoughts on XRP. What is Web3? Hello, Gen XRP. It's great to see you, my friend, and I appreciate that question. I'm going to answer it first. What is Web3? Because this is important context for everything else in our space. Web3 is a buzzword catch-all term that is used to refer to the technologies that make cryptocurrency possible. Cryptography, blockchains, smart contracts that will help us evolve the internet into a place where, for the first time, we can truly own digital information, and which gives us new tools to make meaning about information in the offline world as well. I hope that helps. Examples include using cryptography to verify distinct accounts on a network like Bitcoin as belonging to one person or one bot or one company without needing to know any information about them. You don't need to know my name is Evan Mann and have me verify my driver's license issued by a government. You can trust a piece of computer code that anyone can verify that can obscure the information but prove it to you. And for now, for the purposes of this short explanation, I'm asking you to take that on faith, but you do not have to take it on faith. There is a lot of information out there, and much of it is on our channel, on our show. But it's a rabbit hole that will require probably 60 to 90 minutes to really feel good about going down, because you'll want to verify these things for yourself, and you'll have a lot of follow-up questions. And I recommend you get started at a place like coinbase.com/learn, and that you use the Rise Up community and the Rise Up morning show as your companion. Do a little homework, watch the Learn to Use Crypto playlist in my profile, or come to the show, navigate Coinbase Learn, go to a place that lays the information out. And then have friends who know crypto, understand crypto, who aren't going to try and sell you some hypey investment, who can explain these things to you patiently, kindly. That's how you do it. So thank you for the question, Gen XRP. And now, with that in mind, let's talk about some of these tokens. I want to remind you that while we're glad to answer any question anytime, I think thoughts on blank is generally a reflection that that person is trying to outsource their conviction. And I'm not blaming any of you of this. I just mean to say I see this a lot, that somebody is trying to outsource their conviction, the reason they might choose to buy or sell or take an action, to somebody else. They're looking to me or Will or Cosmic or whoever, Unchained Crypto, for a reason they should take action. And that's how everybody makes decisions. You know, we try to take in data, we do our own research, but in the absence of your own conviction, your own certainty about what is or isn't likely to happen, if you're trying to predict the future based on somebody else's conviction, then you are always going to be reliant on them to some extent. So as I answer these things, I want you to think about not treating your favorite influencers or thought leaders like Google, but using them to get frameworks that will help you evaluate all these things more for yourself, because you are just as smart and as capable as all your favorite influencers, and sometimes if you're following Crypto Sage, maybe more. Okay, no more hating other people. I don't hate him, but no more picking on other people. It's not, you know, I don't need to. But that guy's not your teacher. HBAR is a token I just made a video about recently. Thank you for the question. Because I was responding to an excellent prompt from Clay Browning. Clay Browning, K-L-A-Y, is a creator on TikTok whose whiteboard videos helpfully break down concepts around crypto. And they're short and sweet and to the point. And I thought I would extend one of his videos comparing HBAR to Ethereum and unpacking a claim he made with some additional information. He said, if Ethereum was invented today, nobody would use it because compared to other chains like HBAR, it's slow. It's outdated tech. But an important thing that comes up again and again in blockchain is it doesn't matter so much if you launch a new blockchain today and it's the fastest blockchain, it's the cheapest blockchain. It is like Bitcoin times Ethereum meets XRP, and it's got the founder of whatever and this partnership with so-and-so. Those things are cool. But really, the most important thing about whether or not a blockchain is able to sustain value over time is how people use the network. You might think of blockchains like a city. A city like New York is valuable because many people from many cultures have contributed for many years to the culture of that city. And it is a place where, sure, you could start a hot dog in Omaha, Nebraska, a hot dog stand. You could start a hot dog stand on the internet. But if you go to New York and start a hot dog stand, sure, there's a lot of competition, but you're going to get a lot of foot traffic, a lot of eyeballs. And if you do good, more people will see your product and potentially fall in love with you. There is a bigger, we call it TAM, which is an acronym for total addressable market. Ethereum, as blockchains go, is like New York City. HBAR is more like a corporate town that got built up around a niche company. HBAR is, we call it EVM compatible, which means everything that happens on HBAR happens because Ethereum built infrastructure for it first. Ethereum is where people go to make contracts and standards and build out infrastructure. And HBAR is like one application of what they can do. It is oriented towards permissioned use cases, meaning if I am a private company who wants a specific kind of network to support my crypto goals, I might consider HBAR. Ethereum is a big playground where you can build and do anything. So I might also consider Ethereum. In fact, most institutions who build in the blockchain space do consider and choose Ethereum. They are the JP Morgans of the world, the FedExes of the world, the Sonys of the world, the Deutsche Banks of the world, the BlackRocks of the world. They choose to build on Ethereum because you can build anything there. XRP, HBAR, a lot of other ecosystems are smaller, shorter. It's not that they're bad. It's just that they have a smaller total addressable market. And the other thing about HBAR specifically that makes me think it will probably, all of this is to say the conclusions I draw about it are that HBAR, if you look at its price over time, it spikes and falls with trends in the market, but it has found a sort of steady floor. There are many tokens that have found a sort of steady floor. Cardano, Algorand, HBAR, XRP has found a sort of steady floor. And with a growing network over time, what I would expect to see and would hope to see is like something I would invest in for the long term is like a higher low. Look at the chart for Bitcoin and look at how it goes up and down, yes, but it establishes this sort of trajectory over time where it is growing. The floor gets higher. A lot of tokens like HBAR are good to trade if you can time when the pumps are coming. They react to interesting news and partnerships. XRP is a lot like this. It's on the front page of the crypto internet, but there are many people who are interested in selling after holding it for a long time. And they're not waiting for it to go to $5 or $10 or whatever. They're trying to make their profits and get out of there because they've been holding the token for a long enough time that they haven't seen as many results as they'd hoped for. A lot of these tokens have the same story or they reinvent their story over time. And therefore, the price, when it spikes, comes back down to zero as these people exit. My dad and I were talking about this yesterday. There was a question here that was really helpful. CryptoBoat says, can addressable market basically just be utility. Yes, but utility alone is not enough to demonstrate value. The people need to find value in it by using it. Again, you might have the fastest, cheapest network, but how many people spend their time there? How many people can program and code in your smart contract language? How many people participate in the governance forums? How many validator nodes are there? Are there even allowed to be validator nodes? On HBAR, there are only 39 companies whose names you recognize that are allowed to operate validator nodes. On Ethereum, there are thousands of validator nodes, and anyone can start one at any time. So if you're trying to be the backbone of the future internet, which is decentralized and global and permissionless, you don't want to look like HBAR. You want to look like ETH. In that sense, they're not really direct competitors. So I said all that just to unpack for you a little more about the architecture of these companies. I think a lot of people are walking around the crypto space just looking at price charts, which can be helpful if you're, William Watson and you know how to read the tea leaves. But it's also important to know the history of this space, the context for it, and how these businesses might operate in the future or right now, because that will help you to build your own kinds of conviction. Let me give you one example before I get out of here. And let me also say a special shout out and thank you to everybody who continues to listen live when it's just one guy. The show's not as entertaining, it's not as good, but the folks on TikTok are pushing the likes up. Everybody's in the chat, sharing their thoughts. I really, really appreciate all that you do to make this show wonderful, because you're the very best part of it. I had a conversation with my dad yesterday. He was talking about the ISO tokens. He said, Evan, what's going to happen on November 22nd? I said, I don't know, Dad. What have you heard is going to happen on November 22nd? And he said, oh, I just understand that that's when the ISO is going into effect. And I said, well, the short answer, Dad, is I don't think a lot's going to happen in terms of the experience of how you use money, digital money, cash, cryptocurrency. I said, on the back end of your money, banks and the other systemic institutional actors that make your money move are going to upgrade a protocol that changes how they communicate information. I said, the banking system is decades old. A lot of it runs on something called COBOL. A lot of the messaging standards, they're clunky, they're slow, or, each of these banks has their own siloed proprietary system that makes it hard if there's, say, a repeat of the 2008 financial collapse for us to get in under everybody's hood and assess the damage. So these companies, these governments, these institutions, they want to be able to have more unified standards for reporting, for sharing information, and this is going to affect that. And if it makes them more efficient and profitable, it'll probably happen to their CEO's pocket more than it happens to you. You don't have to worry about a whole system changing overnight and messing the way you use money up. It's not going to happen like that. However, a lot of the tokens that are associated with ISO are very susceptible to announcements and news. There's a saying in crypto, and it's become a saying because it is proven true often. Buy the rumor, sell the news. And what this means is, because markets are looking at the future and trying to predict it, and they're made up of the behaviors of many individuals, then they look forward to an event like this, and they might react by buying up those tokens in anticipation other people will think they are more valuable. And often on the day the news breaks or before the news or something like that, they will sell. It creates we say, local high on the chart, a sort of cliff that things fall off of. Now, I would like to take that and extend it a little further just to show you a picture. And Cosmic, if you're still here, don't come at me, bro. I think I've got the screen share ready. We're going to take a look at Algorand's chart, because I also want to explain to you the dynamic of how crypto tokens even come to market in the first place. Because the other thing my dad said about these, not just the ISO tokens, but a couple of tokens in his portfolio generally, and he mentioned Algorand. Something I see a lot of people say is, here's Algorand's price right now. It's hovering at 23 cents. And my dad said, when I was looking back on the chart, I saw that it was at one point recently about $1.50. This is $1.50, and this up here is almost $2.50. But you'll notice that the highest point on the chart is when this token launched. Recently in our silly TA contest, one of our friends, ACC, drew a Godzilla character whose breath of fire was burning the buildings of Tokyo on a similar looking chart as this. And I love that Godzilla pattern because it explains very much what's happening here. For people in podcast land, the Algorand chart looks a lot like the ICP chart. The Cardano chart looks something like this. Many tokens that launched before 2020 look like this, where you start the chart at the top of the hill, you sharply dip down, and then you have smaller peaks, come back down, a smaller peak, you come back down. And this token has a pretty constant floor of about 30 cents. It seems like over time, throughout the hype cycles, though it spikes and falls, people seem to find this to be an agreed upon value for this token. Now, let's talk about how a token gets a chart like this and why so many charts in crypto look like this. And I want you to take away the lesson about why price doesn't matter so much, why hype cycles don't matter so much, why buy the rumor, sell the news is important, and why not everything is just a buy and hold forever token. This is answering the question, thoughts on XRP, thoughts on HBAR, thoughts on anything. I think of all crypto companies, if I'm trying to make money as a speculator on them, in the context of history. After Ethereum launched with an ICO, an initial coin offering, where people could buy tokens in a pre-sale that would be allocated to them later when the token went public, other crypto companies saw this as a viable way to raise money and bring their tokens to market. And usually it looks like this for a crypto company. We build a blockchain, we put some computer code together, we come up with branding and a vision for it, just a couple of us, me and Alex and Will, all of us listening to the Rise Up morning show. And once we've got a compelling vision, maybe a white paper, maybe a couple lines of code, we go to a venture capitalist and we say, look, Ethereum's very secure, but it's very expensive and it's very slow. We have a couple of test transactions that will prove to you we can handle billions of transactions per second. We can decentralize in this way. We already know somebody who's going to build an exchange and make it possible to do DeFi swaps faster, make it more secure to tokenize real world assets on our chain. This is our branding. This is our name. This is our mission, our vision, whatever. We've got this guy from Yale, and we're asking you for $1 million for 1% of our company. The venture capitalist says, yep, this is called a pre-seed round. Before we go to other venture capitalists, we need to get someone, we call it, on our cap table, okay? When somebody buys 1% of our tokens for $1 million, that gives our company a valuation. When tokens trade, it creates a value for them. That's how we arrive at token price in the open market, what people are willing to buy and sell them for. But before a token is trading on the open market, the company, this happens with stocks too, is valued by how much people invest in that token, okay? At 1%, 1 times 100 to make it 100%, 1% for $1 million means my company now has a valuation of $100 million. Okay? Next, because $1 million isn't really that much if I want to market in 2025 and compete against other crypto companies, and this is a dense space, even if it is a startup space. So now, with the confidence we have gained from this first venture capital partner, we're going to go to do a Series A. This is when we're going to ask more venture capital companies to come onto our cap table. And this time we're going to sell an additional 5% of our company for another $10 million. Now we've taken $11 million, $6 million, $11 million for 6% of our company. Oh my gosh.
Don't come for me.
And now we've got whatever, 6 times 18, 17, this is 100, right? Something like that. And 11 times 17. Now our company's worth almost $200 million. Okay. And we haven't even launched yet. We don't have a product or service you can use. We're still in testnet. Now we've got $6 million that we can pay key opinion leaders with. We buy them out on Twitter. We pay a really great agency to do our website. We pay a PR agency to get us on the Unchained Crypto podcast. And we hire a bunch of people. We start reaching out to our friends and connections at Chainlink. We start reaching out to our friends at connections at Visa and MasterCard. And we bring on somebody who used to work at Tether, and we tell you about it. And everybody's mouth has our name in it. And we are the fastest. We are the cheapest. We are the coolest. And when our token launches, like Algorand does right here, because of all the money we have taken, it starts out at I don't know what, depending on our supply, $170 million of valuation. Maybe we've got a fully diluted supply of 2 billion tokens, and that gives us a fully diluted valuation of like $2 billion, which is about what Algorand's market cap is right now. So their market cap at this point in time, I mean, it was much higher. Let's talk about, oh no, it was lower because they hadn't released that many tokens into circulation. Very interesting. This happens a lot. But my point is, at this moment, when they are launched to the public, those venture capitalists have signed agreements about when they are going to receive and when they will be able to sell their tokens. And often, some percent of their tokens comes unlocked at this point. And those people who gave me $1 million way back when, their investment because of other people's money is now worth so much more. My company has a higher valuation and they've got 10% of their tokens that are at a 40x. So they're going to sell 30% of them or whatever comes unlocked. And that is going to pay them back for their risk. But it's also going to create a chart that just tanks downward like this chart does. As those people and everyone else who got in early, the team, etc., rush to sell. And the market works to find a value for this token. This happened with many such tokens. And then when the hype comes back, every crypto token pumps. And if you did that good job of marketing, raising venture capital money, you've got runway to work on stuff, even if you're not actually solving a meaningful problem. You've got enough money to fund an accelerator program where you can pay some geniuses $600,000 to build you a DEX, another couple of geniuses $600,000 to build you an NFT marketplace. You can keep the marketing engine going, and now you've got an ecosystem. And now your layer one is an ecosystem, right? HBAR has an ecosystem. XRP has an ecosystem. They're starting to do DeFi. They're going to become EVM compatible. They've got partnerships. But my point is, and what I want you to understand is that unless and until a growing mass of people are doing more than speculating on this network, developer activity is increasing. Smart contract infrastructure is increasing because these at the end of the day are businesses, and blockchains are businesses that enable the Web3 future. People to truly own their information on the internet, whether that information is money, and they can start a company like Charizard Capital to create tokens that represent these assets to give them velocity when they're just pieces of cardboard. Like, that is a novel use case of blockchain. Ethereum as the infrastructure upon which you can build a decentralized application where pieces of code, smart contracts that anyone can verify can replace human actors doing those jobs faster, better, more honestly. That is a novel use case that attracts development, that attracts capital, that attracts users who are there for more than just buying and selling a token. If Apple computers launched and their branding was killer, but nobody bought their products, they would eventually go under. And I'm not saying that Algorand is going to go under, that XLM, HBAR, XRP are going under. And I'm not saying you can't make money on these tokens. What I am saying is these are startup companies still looking for product market fit, as attested by their chart, where when the price spikes with the rest of the crypto market because people are excited about crypto again, and those tokens are on the front page of the internet or behind a hot, sexy narrative like ISO, the people who are excited to get in, buy. And the people who finally are in profit or just at less of a loss, sell. And the venture capitalists have unlocked more tokens, so they sell. And, and the price comes back down to a floor of about the same amount. You can make a lot of money on that volatility, but there's a big difference between buying something because your favorite influencer is telling you about it, buying something because there's a partnership announcement, which is really a press release, and buying the stock of a company like Apple or Nvidia because everybody uses their products and services to solve a real world problem. You can make money doing both. And I don't think one approach is necessarily better or worse than the other. I will say, I think one is easier to teach or learn because it is testable. It is repeatable. We have better metrics and measuring sticks for it. And all we're trying to do here as speculators or builders is trying to predict the future. And therefore, if the goal is, as Will said, just not to lose your money, to make a little more money over time, then it helps to bet on the things that seem most likely, that you can inform from conviction, from history, from context, from perspective. Now, if you stayed with me for that whole example, that really was just my long-winded way to answer what's Web3 and how do I feel about HBAR or XRP, then my friends, you deserve some ice cream today. And if you're one of those people who's saying, wait, you didn't answer the question. What do you say about XRP?
Don't come for me.
Slow down. Listen to that segment again. I am interested in networks that have meaningful, verifiable partnerships, increasing developer and user activity over time. And I find that generally speaking, our crypto literacy and ability to determine those things is really low. I think a lot of people will see an influencer's video and see them say that because Ripple has permissioned networks that we all need to get whitelisted, or that because Ripple is EVM compatible, it's going to blow up and smart contracts are huge there. If you want to learn, get into a community of people who work at those companies, who use those protocols, get those insider perspectives, find out what their products and services that people can actually use are. Look at their revenue. There are many metrics. We've talked about how to look at all of them. And it'll take a little while if you're joining for the first time to get you caught up, but you're in the right place and there's no rush. I want you to reason with me. This is the last thing I'll say for now before we do a final thought and get our dogs and ponies out of here. If HBAR or XLM or XDC or your favorite hot token that you're hearing a lot about on social media right now, XVM, Sage token, whatever, if it was really the future of finance, if it was really the next best thing, do you think that a bunch of creators and commenters on TikTok or Twitch or wherever would be the ones talking about it, buying it? Do you really think that I and Alex and Will and Chris Dixon, the lead inventor at A16Z, and Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, do you really think those people, if they thought that was true, would sit on the sidelines? Do you really think they wouldn't take out a second mortgage, throw $1,000 at it, or go all in on this asset that's going to be the future of finance? And do you really think it's likely that they just don't know, that they're not plugged into the right sources? If you think it's likely, that's okay. I really want to understand why. Tell me why. Because I just don't think it's likely. But my mind is open and I'm willing to learn, because that's the lesson. Everybody here will do better if they keep their minds open and remain curious learners. Have your own convictions, but be willing to listen to why other people say they will do what they are doing. Mr. Robot Steckler says, so sell all my XRP that is 5X'd. All I'm saying is, if it was me, man, I would have sold it when it was 7X. You just don't know what the top is going to be. But if you make money, you've already won. This market, Mayhew says, thrives on consumer confusion. That is so true. And I am interested in what Hublai Khan says about thinking in an asset like gold, not in USD. That's very interesting. Let us know what you think in. CryptoBoat says it's like NASCAR. Went from dirt roads to billion-dollar industry. That's exactly right. And we are here to tell you about it. Tomorrow, we're going to be back with our friend and community member, Matthew, for a Web3 101 Wednesday, where he gets to join to tell us about his story. If you're a premium member in the Rise Up community, we want to hear from you. We want you on a future episode of Web3 101 Wednesday. And if you're not a member of the premium community, you can sign up for a free trial for 10 days. It's $29 a month after that. What do you get for $29 a month? Well, you get increased access to me and Alex and Will. We do office hours, which is like a free weekly coaching call. You get discounts on coaching calls. If you need one-on-one help setting up a cold wallet, something we've done hundreds of times, then you can get it from us. If you don't have the kind of budget to pay for it, and even the discounts of the premium membership don't help, jump in the community anyway, because it's totally free. You can meet your friends, ask a question, share what you know. The only thing missing is you. I say it because it's true. We really would love to see you there. And you don't have to join our community, but it's a great step. It's a great stop. Whether you're just concerned about how Bitcoin works, you want somebody's thoughts on XRP, or you want to share what you know because you've been here a little while, then I'd love to see you there. Are we still doing the Thursday after show party this week? Robot Steklerich asks. Possibly. Alex is going to run the show tomorrow night for After Dark and Thursday morning, because I am going to spend some time with my grandma now that I'm here in Michigan. Grammy, if you're listening, I sure do love you. I can't wait to give you a hug. And everybody else, if you've got more questions, you know what to do. Head on over to rumshq.com, join the Rise Up community, and let me know there. Or save until tomorrow, because we'll be back. Same time, same place for more Rise Up Morning Show. Until then, everybody, thank you for being the very best part of what we do.
I will absolutely die on
Until next time, everybody stay safe. Be well, my friends.